back in the studio again.
Back in the studio.
Yeah, testing out some changes to my setup. So I think I mentioned on here, and we've talked offline. We're gonna be moving in a month, so my setup for like the next year or so has to be a bit more flexible, maybe a little bit more mobile. So I've been using a standing desk for several years, but now I got one that's a bit smaller and it's actually on a tripod. So like I could easily pick it up and move it. I still, wherever I'm going, like I'll have well, not wherever I'm going. I know where I'm going. But however we decide to set things up when we get there, however I decide to set things up there, I'll still mount the bigger display there, but then I can move this around. But also as part of that, I've also been playing with other things with the new desk. So I've actually got the camera mounted here on a similar thing. Like it has a similar mount to like a tripod, but it's a single post clamped to the desk, and then I actually mounted the light on another one. So like I've had like those little like loom cubes, and like I've had it off to the side here. I actually have it in front of me now with the camera. So got the microphone mounted on there, the camera, the light. So I'm still playing around with organization and stuff. So I actually just got it set up this morning. So I'll probably change it around a bit more. But
cool.
Trying to make this a little bit more of a professional outfit.
You have to snap a picture and put it on Slack.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, I'll share a picture with everyone once I get it cleaned up. Still need to organize the cables a bit and clean up a bit. But yeah, I will. I'll share a picture of the updated setup.
As you're getting cleaned up, you can't see it on camera, but just off to the periphery here, my office is an absolute mess. So anyway,
yeah. Well, I mean, we've talked about it before. Like people try to have like this, nice polished background, but like what you usually don't see right on the other side of the camera.
Yeah,
that's normal.
Yeah, I hear you. Oh, by the way, and I don't know if this is going to make you self-conscious or not, but we have a fan who I talked to the other day of the podcast who listens on his commute into the office.
Okay.
And he he said, love listening to the show. So if you're in the Miami area, and you're commuting into the office, we appreciate you listening to the show and going to give you your personal shout out here. But he said, I can't remember the episode, but he's like, I think you were talking about so-and-so that works for me on that episode. Is like, that was a conversation you and him. I'm like, it could have been, it could have been. I can't remember exactly, but sometimes, it's hard not for our day-to-day to kind of seep into the podcast.
Yeah.
So I think he may have recognized one of the discussions we were having as one of the discussions that we were having with him internally. So
insane.
Yeah.
So, that's crazy.
People are listening. That's cool. It was cool. Mm-hmm. It's still weird to me that and by the way, just so listeners know, as we're recording this, I'm trying to I have you in one ear and I have a Twitch stream running in my other ear, because there's a streamer that messaged me the other day and said, hey, if you want to stop by my Twitch stream, I'm thinking about reading your A is for Analytics book on my stream, which happened to coincide with the time that we're recording. So here's the funny thing: as I'm listening to him stream in one ear and we're talking here, I'm finding myself like talking like a streamer and like just BSing like a streamer. Like, wait a minute, no, we're recording a podcast here. So I'm like, well, I'm not a streamer, but anyway, I don't know where I was going with that, but I was going to say that how many years in are we to doing this, and how many crazy episodes deep we are? I still
5 years in.
It still like catches me off guard when someone says, I listened to your podcast. and remember the Vegas story?
Yes. Yeah, right? I do remember the Vegas story. Yes.
Down in Vegas at I can't remember what hotel I was. That was at Caesar's Palace. I was in Caesar's Palace at the Starbucks in Caesar's Palace ordering coffee, and someone recognized my voice as I was ordering coffee. It's like, wait, are you Jason from the 33 Tangents podcast? I'm like, what? What is happening here? It still like freaks me out. Yeah. But it's awesome. Like, I mean,
it's
It's
insane, and
incredible.
I love hearing that. Like, you see the downloads, but the people are actually listening to it and taking something away.
Yeah.
I've said it so many times, and I'll just reiterate it again. Like, this podcast was just a wild ass idea.
Yeah.
It was meant to just be a creative outlet. Some of the conversations we were having internally, I'm like, if we recorded this, someone maybe is going to listen, and it turns out people are. Like, this was just meant to mirror the conversations we have internally when certain things come up.
Yeah. And hopefully people are getting value out of it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the whole. I mean, yes, we want to entertain, but we also hopefully we're talking about things that people are
Mhm.
able to walk away with. That it's like, I'm glad I spent that hour listening to Jim and Jason because helped me with this problem, or makes me a little bit better in my job, or helps me be a bit more informed about our industry. So
Mhm. Or just, hey, I'm not the only one dealing
yeah,
with this kind of situation.
yeah,
Because sometimes you start to feel so isolated. It's like, I'm the only one that has this problem or is dealing with
yeah,
this scenario.
yeah.
But talking about streaming before we actually get into our topic, one of my goals this year is to turn this into a live stream.
Mm.
My goal is, and
We can be real life streamers.
we could be real life streamers. I don't know if I'm going to do all the crazy emotes, but one
We
of
have
the
to have
things,
like cool lighting behind us, and
yeah, once I get set up in my new location, I'll see if I can't get like one of those things behind you, like those lights that hear your voice and kind of the lights dance based on your voice and you're talking. I've seen a few other streamers have it.
yeah.
Either that or I'll do like the really cool like noise dampening wall, like
I think
things paneling on the wall.
I think it would be I think we should give it a good run. I know we tried not necessarily streaming, but there were a couple of times where we said, "Hey, we're recording right now. Throw us your questions," and we had a really difficult time getting engagement. But I want to believe that there are at least maybe a small group of people that would love to engage live, and we still have this on demand, right? We're still going to publish afterwards out to the network, so you can always get it. But I think it would be super cool. I mean, how many episodes in are we? Like, what did you say?
250. This is
I
250.
mean, people got to be tired of just hearing Jason and Jim all the time. Like, let's get other people involved and make this a bit more interactive. I think it'd be super cool.
And that's the idea I had coming into this year. How can we further engage with those that are listening? So and I don't want to just do it haphazardly. So
Yeah,
this kind of became like an impromptu tease for it. I really want to think it out, and how do we do it so that our listeners who enjoy the podcast format of listening to it on their commute and whatnot still get what they're used to, but then also adding the live streaming component where those people that do want to chat, post questions, or just kind of see it as we record, we can
yeah,
also look to add that option.
yeah. And I think obviously the behind the scenes stuff, but like for me, it's just I mean, I think we have a really compelling format, and we talked about a lot of really important things, but just think how cool it would be to kind of quickly be able to pivot that on the fly as people are interacting with us live with questions or feedback. I think it would be super cool.
Yeah, same here.
So,
Yeah. Cool. So, all right. So we are running a little bit behind today. So let's jump
and I'm going to try to
into.
be focused, but
No problem. Let's jump into our conversation for today. So we're going to wrap up the topic we've been going for the last couple of weeks around digital analytics agencies, and we did tease it a bit last week as we were wrapping up.
yeah,
But the question I want to pose today, like last week, we spoke about like why would a company want to hire a digital analytics agency, and we talked about how some are kind of feel like that FOMO, the need to keep up with the Joneses. Our competitor just hired an agency, so we need to do it,
yeah,
or everyone's telling us we need to do it, so we're going to hire you, even though we don't really know why we're doing
yeah,
it. Today, I want to talk about like for those that have defined their reason, their purpose for bringing in a digital analytics agency, and the needs for that agency, not just the purpose for why they're doing it, but the specific needs they need from that partner. How do you find the digital analytics agency that is right for you?
Well, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. Is we have to start with that conversation, right? And um, I think most, well, maybe it's not most. A lot of the conversations I have, they haven't thought through that, right? They again, we need help. We don't know why we need help, so help us. And hopefully, you come across an empathetic um, analytics agency that you're looking to partner with, and they help you through that part of the conversation in the sales process. But a lot won't, right? So hopefully, if you're listening to this, you've now made a mental note. When I go out to look for services, before I ever start talking to anybody, I need to figure out what I'm trying to solve for, right? And it's like with anything else, we think about, man, I know I want to pause and do. We need to understand why we're doing that before we get into the conversation.
Well, yeah, because it's like you're going to find those unscrupulous ones out there that see someone that doesn't have their reason, clearly defined as to why they're doing this, and they're going to jump all over it.
They are.
Think about the cliche used car salesman.
Yeah.
Um,
No,
you know,
that's what it is, right? And
you
you're
know,
going to get high pressure sales tactics. You're going to get
oh
there.
come on, you got to think about this. You haven't heard about XYZ? Oh man, you are missing out. Your competitors, I know they're on it. 50% of your industry has already moved to that. You're already behind. You didn't know about it, but you're already behind.
Yeah. So back to what I was chatting. How cool would a stream be with us watching and commenting on other streams? I think streamers make. I think there are
Yeah,
streamers that
they do.
make money too,
There's some
right?
that, yeah,
That's what their whole gig is.
their whole gig is
Um,
restreaming and commenting.
Yeah. So as I was saying, I think the most important place to start is why are we looking for an analytics partner, and what kind of analytics partner are we looking for? And I think lots of service companies have the same problem: is, oh, you do consulting, so you're all the same. And
Yeah.
they're, speaking of ice cream on the stream that we were just watching, it's way more than Baskin Robbins. There's way more than 32 flavors, right? There are just hundreds, thousands of different flavors of consulting. And if you don't know what you're looking for, you may end up with, some flavor that you absolutely hate. And unfortunately, we see that happen so much in analytics, and why so many people have said they've had a negative experience with analytics or with consulting in general. And I think that while there are definitely some bad agencies, while I think there are definitely bad consultants, I want to believe that most of those bad experiences are because there are thousands of flavors of ice cream available, and you don't know why you're even getting ice cream, let alone the flavor you want, and so you get handed some random ice cream cone, and it's a flavor you just dislike, and that's like, oh, I just had a bad consulting experience. Well, yes, but to be fair, you didn't even know you wanted ice cream, and then when you decided you were going to get ice cream, you had no clue what flavor, and so you said, "Yeah, they're all the same. Just give me a flavor."
And then you got
They're
Graham
not.
Raisin, and
Right?
you're like, this is
You're like, no,
awful.
this is garbage. All ice cream is garbage.
Yeah,
It's not, right? And to some
correct.
people, that might be delicious. So, you know, not all services are the same. And so you have to be really, really clear. And if you're not clear, put in the work. Um, if you still don't know, hopefully, as you're going through the sales process, you have a good agency, because you'll know this right up front. If you have an agency that's taking the used car approach with you, it's an agency you don't want to be involved in. If it's an agency in the sales process that says, wait a minute, let's make sure we're the right fit for you, let's make sure that you like this flavor of ice cream, that's a really good sign, right? That they want to help you through that process. If they come to you and say, oh, we're just the best ice cream, well, what flavor is, don't worry about it, it's just all really good, red flag.
Yeah. Yeah. And we've talked about it time and time and time again, is if there is any sense of you have to do this now, there is no time to wait. You are wasting time. In fact, you are already behind. that's red flag number 2,
Yeah.
that this agency is not the right fit for you.
Any pressure tactics, again, walk away, right? Red
Yeah.
flag. Pressure tactics tend to come, and this happens in the product space as well. We're talking used car sales. This happens in the product space as well, where they're looking at you as a transaction. I don't really care if you buy from me again, because I might not even be in this job tomorrow. So I'm just trying to get my paycheck right now, right? They don't really care. They're just trying to, this is just a transaction. People and companies that are investing the time, they're not using FUD. They're helping educate you through the process. They're trying to determine, are we even a good fit for each other? They're doing that because they're looking for not a transaction, but a relationship. And fine, there may be some occasions where the transaction is all you need. But if you're truly looking to leverage analytics as a competitive advantage, if you're looking to leverage analytics to better understand your customer so you can create more positive experiences with your customers, um, you can't partner with an analytics agency that sees you as a transaction. You have to find an agency that is looking to build a relationship with you. So look for those red flags, and if you see them,
Yeah.
run.
Because I mean, I have one idea in my head, but I want to pose it as a question. Like you talk about the relationship. So let's dive into that, the relationship component. When you find the agency that is more interested in building a relationship, what what does an organization see? Like what are some of the outcomes from that kind of approach?
Sorry, from a
For,
transactional or from a
no, from the
relationship?
actually building a relationship.
So the outcomes are meaningful outcomes, right? So and let me compare and contrast, because that may be the best way to describe it. So as a transactional relationship, what am I going to focus on? A deliverable, a document, and sure, those things are important, but they're selling you this tangible thing, right? Here, pay me for that, I'm out. A company, an agency that is more interested in a relationship is going to talk about what it's going to enable. This is going to allow you to. This is going to enable this. As you know, this is going to help your team go from an average level to a pro level. To have your team go from a pro level to an elite level. They're looking at bigger, longer outcomes rather than we're here to. And we've seen this a lot. I in fact I've had people ask me for this, and they don't know what they're asking for. Well, why did so and so agency? So I'll give an example. We have no idea what our analytics is doing. Our executive team said we're not getting any value from it. We need someone to come in and help understand like what's going on. Awesome, we can do that. It's a 3-month project. What? Why is it a 3-month project? Well, we have to understand your team. We have to understand what the business does. We have to understand how it's using data today. We have to go through the technical audit and analysis to see if the data is good. We have to understand the cultural and relationship issues. There's a lot that we have to unpack in order to give you a really good view of where. Well, I talked to so and so agency the other day, and they said 48 hours. So, what? What are we talking about here, right? Like, you want me to run a scan? I can run a scan for you in 20 minutes. You want, do you want a transaction, or do you truly want someone to come in and help you be in a position where you can explode the value that your organization is delivering for the company? Right.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I think there is way too much transaction happening because people don't care. The agency doesn't care. They just want to get paid. And unfortunately, a lot of people that are being tasked with bringing in an analytics partner don't care either. They're just being told you have to do this. So to them, it's a checklist item. I don't know. I don't even know why I'm doing this, but my boss is yelling at me. We got to do this. We have to do this audit. So the faster I can get it done, the better. These guys are going to do it in 20 minutes. I don't really care what the results are. I just want to be able to check it off the list that I did it.
Mhm. Yeah, and to add to that, you with that relationship, you get a partner that understands your specific business. And how that immediately starts to materialize is your conversations, the output that's produced, the outcomes of the engagement are centered around your business, not just generic use cases. like, they're specific to your business. Say you're running an e-commerce shop. The way you specifically look to engage with customers, how you run promos, how you get them to a product page. If you have brick and mortar stores, maybe there's ways you try to bring them into store. They're going to approach it with your specific use cases in mind, and they're going to get to know your business
And it
and be
takes
able to
work.
speak
It's
with a
hard,
level of
right?
yeah, and
It's
speak with a level of familiarity versus coming with, oh, you're an e-commerce shop, well, here's how we set up data collection for the funnel, here's how we analyze cart abandonment, here's how we do those kind of things, without any kind of lens into the way you run your business.
and let's talk about why that happens. It comes down to margins. And it comes down to, am I playing the short game or am I playing the long game? And with the short game, you're rarely going to get much of a return on your investment. With the long game, you're probably going to get multiples of a return on your investment. The short game is all about efficiencies from an agency perspective. We need to get the work done as quick as possible to check the box that we got it done so we can get paid. As long as it's within the bucket of hours they bought, by the way. I'm not going to go down that path, but
Not this episode.
yeah, you know what I'm saying. Like they're trying to do as much as they can with as little effort on their side as they can, because they know that that's where their margins are. So if I can run some scripts, do some copy paste, say it took me 10 hours to do that, then my margin is going to be a lot better than if I actually put in the work that it takes to truly understand the business, to craft a not a one size fits all, but a truly unique, just for you deliverable, because I've put in the hard work of talking, of researching, of figuring out what the business needs. That's hard. It's hard. And it's not
Mhm.
something you can do in 48 hours. But now margins, right? It's like, wait a minute. So I can run a script that gives them a deliverable and it's super fast and a 20-year-old kid can do it. Or I have to hire what?
No, I was gonna say that's what I was about to touch on, but go
Oh,
ahead.
and I have or do I have to hire someone that's been around for 15 years, really knows business? They're going to be expensive. They're going to want to take the time to talk to people, to investigate the business, to understand what the business does so that they can put together a truly personalized set of recommendations. Where am I going to get my money on that? I can only charge, $250 an hour for their time, and I'm not going to make that up. Might as well go the cheap route. What people don't understand is that with the cheap, you get what you pay for, right? And in fact, you think it's cheap, but it ends up costing you more in the long run because you're getting a bad implementation. It's not sustainable. You're making business decisions on bad data. Whereas the long term approach may take you a bit more time, definitely is going to cost you more money, but you're going to have a sustainable solution. You're going to have data you trust. You're going to have advice from true experts. And so that's really kind of a huge differentiator when you think about it, and why agencies choose to go this model of hiring cheap, automating as much as they can, because that's where the margins are. And I have on more than one occasion, I'm not going to name names, have caught an agency doing the copy paste. And what the copy paste is we have a set of quote playbooks on our shelf, by industry, by solution. And so you come in, it's like, oh, Jim works in auto, and he's in auto sales, and he's trying to do an implementation. Great, here's our playbook for it. Let me do a quick find and replace, generic auto company A with Jim's auto sales. Let's replace the generic logo with Jim's logo. Boom, here's your deliverable. I've caught them because there have been occasions where they didn't get all the updates in, and it referenced a generic name. It referenced a client that was the previous client they used this template for. And how do I know how to look for that? I did it. I did it at Omniture. At a time when we were scaling, we were growing very, very quickly, faster than we could scale. We came up with this, I think we called it Project Fusion or something. Basically, it was a set of playbooks that were done by vertical. And when a company came in, we had a process where we did a find and replace, and we updated logos and we updated screenshots and said, here's your deliverable. And looking back on it, I feel horrible that we took that approach. But companies continue to do it today because it's fast, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
And the faster you can get, you can get something done for one client, the next one, the quicker you can move on to another
yeah,
client,
and I can
because with those organizations, it's all about volume.
yeah.
And where I wanted to touch on with that and add to what you were saying is 2 episodes ago when we were talking about agency red flags, we talked about the dirty little secret with agencies getting kickbacks from tech vendors,
Yep.
and that influences and bias, creates a bias for the agency. The other dirty little secret that people don't realize unless they've worked in digital marketing and digital analytics consulting, the practice is during the sales process, they're going to roll out their most experienced people.
Yeah.
They're going to roll out their senior architects, their principal architects, and they're going to keep them on for the first couple of weeks of the project, with the initial discovery. But then they quickly roll that person off and bring in the person with a year and a half's worth of experience.
If you're lucky. Yeah.
Yes, but they're still, but they've sold you on that architect with 15 years experience
Yeah.
in this space, plus another 10 prior to that consulting else, in other industries. This is going to be your main point of contact. And then you get someone that is, 22 years old and just learning the ropes.
And agencies have perfected this, and I was the 22-year-old consultant at one point in time, and I'm glad that there's a system in place. There should be a mentorship system in place
Oh yeah,
for
yeah. I'm not talking about like
consultants,
that.
right? But it's where companies are that look. This is by design, and they've designed it really. They know what they're doing, right? They hire a few high-end people that are very active publicly, so they're kind of the visible face of the company. They're active in the sales process, and to your point, they're active in the engagements for a couple weeks, and then they disappear. They're going to come back, every quarter or
Renewal
so.
time.
They're going to come back on renewal. Hey, love you guys, doing great. How you doing? It's like, what do you mean? Where you been the last 6 months, dude? Like you don't, you have no idea what we're doing, right? But so it's a very, very deliberate decision to trot out these high end people that are really really good at what they do, to justify a high project price, high hourly rate. Then they yank them off the project and staff it with a bunch of people that have a year of experience. And the problem is that's fine, right? Like if you know that that's what you're getting into. I think there are definitely situations where, look, we're totally immature as a company, we want to give these kids a chance, fine, but pay the reasonable price for it. You shouldn't be paying high end top dollar for a 20-year veteran and then get a replace, right? Like nope, you're out, swap them out, put in someone else. That's fine, but you got to adjust. We have to adjust something here because
Yeah.
something's off, right?
And I love the good old blended rate.
Blended rate. It's such a lie, right?
Yeah, the blended rate. Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
Jim. Yeah, you'll be spending 5 hours a week on this project,
Yeah.
and we'll have John on it too, 5 hours a week. But then the switch happens, and yeah, like when they go to calculate that blended rate, they'll do exactly what we were talking about with well, Jim has this much experience, so his rate is
Yeah.
this versus John, who is this. But still, they always overestimate the senior person. And I want to clarify and go back to something you said. We're not talking about mentoring new people coming into the industry. We're not bashing people who are trying to get a foothold and trying to learn. We're talking about a bait and switch where you are given the expectation that, oh yeah, we talked to Jim through the sales process, we know the level of experience he has. You're expecting to work with Jim, and a couple weeks in, next thing you know, somebody else is your project lead, and Jim maybe shows up once a month.
Yeah, and again, I think that that's why these conversations are so important, and we're so blunt and transparent in kind of pulling back the covers and saying, here's how services work. Because what we have found over the last 10 years is when you are honest in the process, look, there's way more work than we can do. There's way more work than any one agency can do. And so the goal should be to find that match, because that's where you get the most value, you have the best experiences. But we can't get the right match if we're unwilling to have the conversations about what we do. Again, if you're a new consultancy and you're staffing it with 20-year-old kids, that's great. There's a match for you out there that is a perfect match for where you are, your maturity, and the services you offer. But you have to be transparent about that so that you can find the right match for you. If you're out there pretending you're something you're not, again, going back to the ice cream example, the chances of you selling an ice cream flavor that is not a good fit for who you're selling it to is really, really high, because there's thousands of flavors and people only maybe like two or three flavors. You're gonna screw this up, right? And so that's why we've been incredibly transparent in how we work. We've been incredibly transparent and blunt in the sales process, because we truly want to find that match where it is a really, really good fit, because we know from experience that's where the value creation happens. And more importantly, at a personal level, that's where good experiences happen. And people can say, I've had a lot of shitty experiences with consulting, but that 33 sticks experience was amazing. And it's not that we're doing anything like earth shattering. It's we're recognizing that there is a certain flavor that people like, and we're very, very clear in what that flavor is, and we're matching it together. And that's where the beauty happens.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's start to wrap this up and wrap up this particular series of episodes. Um, if you're an organization looking to bring in a services partner, if you could ask one question and one question only to give you an idea of what that experience would be, what would be that question?
Oh, that's a good question.
And I mean, it's hard because
It's a hard question.
obviously,
So many.
but like, do you have a go-to that kind of tells you, I think I know where this is going to go?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would ask how they structure engagements, because when you talk about from a people perspective, so tell me how you're going to staff my engagement. I think that is going to tell a lot, right? And again, are you going to tell me the truth, or are you going to tell me what I want to hear, and then we're going to change that later? I don't know. That's something you're going to have to figure out. But how a agency plans to staff an engagement tells a lot, right? Because if I come in and say, hey, we really understand client A, what you're trying to do, and Jim is our right fit for you. He's been with the company, what, 8 years? He's been in the industry for 18 years. He has expertise in X, Y, and Z that we decided during the sales process are the most important things to you. He is going to engage with you. He is going to be on your engagement from day one to the end. Here's how it's going to look. That's a completely different conversation from, well, we have a team of 5. Jim's going to be the project manager, and then Lisa's going to be the person manager, and then John's going to be the implementer, and then we have another person, and they just kind of show up, and they're really customer success, and then we have this other person, and they're from a billing perspective. Like, when you start hearing that, you're like, uh-oh. I'm going to get a bunch of people that don't really understand what I'm trying to do, trying to play all these different roles. And one of the biggest things that we hear as far as negative experiences is, man, we really love Jim, and we were making great progress. And then all of a sudden, 2 months into our engagement, we have a new person, and they're nice and all, but we got to start over again. And then we started, and they stick around for 3 months, and then we got a new person. You know why they do that? They're trying to play load balancing. They're trying to do all this stuff to have margins addressed. And it creates a bad experience, right? So,
and it goes back to what you were talking about, a transaction versus a relationship.
Yeah.
Because if they just see you as another line item that they need to move people around.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things, like when we look across our portfolio of clients, we take it very seriously if it's talking about shifting who's running an engagement. It happens. It doesn't happen very often. And go ahead. I was gonna say it doesn't happen very often, and when it does, there's a point to it. Whereas, like, say an engagement has pivoted and we need to bring in other bits of experience, but usually the people that were on from the beginning still stay on to a degree.
So I'm going to change. What's the show where the guy's like, was it Nicolas Cage where he's like, let's go?
I don't know.
I'm going to have to find it and send it to you. Okay, I'm going to change my answer.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to ask about how they're going to staff engagements. I'm going to ask a 2-part question. What is the median length of employment or employee tenure for your company, for your consultants? And what is the median length of engagement that you have with your clients?
Oh, those are good.
Right.
Yeah, those are
if
good
they
questions.
come back and say, well, the median tenure of our employees is 18 months, is 9 months. If they come back and say, well, our median relationship with our clients is 6 months, red flag. Right? Because high turnover on the employment side is going to tell a lot about how they staff their engagements, their philosophy on how they deliver services. If it's crappy, they are not sticking around for very long. So you're going to see high turnover. Same is true on the client side, right? And if you're, and again, if this is all in the context of I'm looking for a relationship and not a transaction. And so if it's transactional, you're going to see very low length of employment times and very low project times. You know, we churn projects out really like a month, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, right? If I'm looking for a meaningful relationship where we're truly unlocking huge value, you're going to find stability in employees. You know, length of employment is going to be in years, you know, longer years, depending on the length of the company, and your client engagements are going to be in the term of years and not weeks or months.
Yes.
I
Agreed.
think that would be very telling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a good place to leave it at from here.
Cool.
Because I mean, like there are so many other questions I think we can get into,
Yeah.
but then I think it starts to dilute it. I think the items that we talked about, especially those last two, are really, really helpful in determining right off the bat if who you're talking to is a right fit for your organization.
Yeah, absolutely.
But again, it goes back to what we talked about last week, well, how we started this conversation, so you don't get taken for a ride.
Mm-hmm.
Before you start evaluating potential partners, know why.
Yeah,
you're going to go through that process.
And if you can answer that question, you have a much higher likelihood of getting a multiplier as a return on your investment. And again, more importantly, you're going to have a much better likelihood of having a good experience. And really, you know, if we're not having good experiences, why are we doing this?
Yeah.
So
cool. All right. Fun topic, fun series of episodes. We got some new topics coming up in the coming weeks. So let's go ahead and wrap up here and talk to everyone later.
see ya.
See ya.